All right, let's get this party started, everybody. Welcome once again to the Survivorman Les Stroud Q&A portion of this YouTube channel. Right out of the starting gate, yes, I absolutely am doing more director's commentaries. Don't worry, I'm doing them all. Every show I've ever shot is getting a director's commentary. So stand by for that right on this channel. Please subscribe. That's huge. You hear it all the time, but it's really, when you have the subscription numbers, it just enables the whole situation so that I can go and make more of these. And in fact, I do have it in my mind that when we hit 1 million subscribers, at that point, I'm going to look at all the numbers, look at everything, and if I can then produce for you, yes, what you ask for all the time, more Survivorman, I'm out in the field and I'm doing that. So I got to get to a particular threshold. You can help me make that happen. I know I could do a Kickstarter and I could do a Patreon and all those sorts of things. Well, I'm not. So let's just see how it goes with this channel first. But I'm happy to get back out there for you. By the way, I actually have pitched it to the networks to come back and do a Survivorman Return series. They're caught up in bureaucracy. We'll see what happens. Kilowatt 35. What's the biggest challenge in filming in the elements? Generally speaking, moisture.
Keeping high-tech equipment like video cameras running in this heat and humidity is becoming quite a challenge. One camera is already shut down due to the condensation.
Heat in the Kalahari, heat will shut the cameras down as well. The other kind of challenge is not screwing up your shot. And the tediousness of dealing with the batteries and the cards and the organization of that. I mean, you have to think about it sometimes. Like, for example, if I'm using a GoPro, the card that comes out of that GoPro is smaller than my fingernail. So not losing that, because what's on that little fingernail-sized card could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in film production expenses. So you have to be really careful.
And this is what we used to refer to as the gold. And why do I refer to it as the gold? Well, because it helps the crew, people involved, the camera people, to understand just how important it is. You fly across the world, you spend time filming, you spend a lot of money filming, and it all comes down to what you have on this right there, that little card. So I lose this, I break it, I destroy it somehow, and I've just wasted an incredible amount of time and money. So you have to treat it like it's gold.
There are a lot of challenges, actually, to filming in the elements, now that I think about it. As far as challenges, a challenge keeping everything going when you realize you've shot something amazing, and then later on that night, you're sitting there and you're checking over your camera footage, and you didn't get it. You do the old double click on the record button. Yep, I'm guilty of that. The card glitched, the camera glitched, the angle was bad, you just didn't get it. That's really hard to, and I've probably lost, I'll bet you I've lost 4 or 5 what I would have considered to have been really good scenes because of camera glitches, that sort of thing. And that's heartbreaking when that happens. All right, Sky Galvin, one particular other TV survival host, says not to eat before bed because the digestion draws heat from the extremities. So, and yet in my episode, I say eat. Is that because I was eating warm food? Are there situations where you are both correct? Or is he just blowing smoke? First of all, remember again that in that case, Bear Grylls is just being an actor. He's a host. He's a dancing monkey. He's a pawn in the game of the producers when it comes to his series Man vs. Wild. So that was the whole point. He did whatever he was told in that series. He got his power later when he broke off on his own. But in that series, he did what he was told. And the producers were going over my series, and they were looking in survival books, and they were coming up with they were making stuff up on the spot as well. For example, drinking elephant dunk. However, this idea, they probably read it somewhere in a book, because that's what they would do. Maybe they saw it online. I cannot speak to the physiology. It may be very true that eating before bed draws heat from your extremities. After all, the blood goes to the stomach to aid digestion. However, what I can say from a true experiential perspective is that for me, when I bed down in a survival situation and I know I'm going to be cold, then I put in a chunk of fat into my body.
I should have a very warm night tonight. This kind of food, high-fat food like this, right before bed, burns in my stomach all night long, and hopefully in a good way. It creates a lot of heat, and a real trick is to have fat like this and crawl into bed. Oftentimes you have to push the covers off because you're so warmed up.
My trick when I go camping, and I have done this time and time again with friends of mine who will go camping, canoe trip, that sort of thing, backpacking, and I will always reserve a block like the size of a pat of butter, maybe a little block of cheddar cheese. And I say, here, eat this. You tell me how you are when you get up in the morning. And they always say the same thing. I was so hot I had to put my sleeping bag down a bit to get some cool air in. So I find that whether or not physiologically it's true, and any doctor watching this, they can answer that question. I cannot speak to the physiology of it. I can speak to the survival experience and say, absolutely, I always eat before bed, but especially if I can, it's going to be something high in fat content. And I feel what's happening is the stomach is churning, working hard to digest that rich fat, and the heat just emanates out from my stomach to my extremities, and I'm quite warm. Lone Wolf Poetics. How would you go about taking medication in a survival situation? It all depends on how much food you have. If you have food in any way, shape, or form, then the same way you would, I mean, no differently. If it's the kind of medication you can ration, then yeah, ration if you can. If you can't and you have no option and you have no food, then water. Do you have water? So you can take it on lots of water. You really just have to follow the rules on the bottle more than anything else, and hope that you don't damage yourself or hurt your system. So there's a lot of variables involved there. My situation, there's two points to my story with this, for example, and I've said this in other director's commentaries. The one thing that I always took with me, and if you want to call it a cheat, call it a cheat. I don't really care. The one thing that I took with me just in case was Tylenol Extra Strength. The reason I did that was I thought, I don't want to find myself on day 3 of filming a Survivorman, down and out with a massive migraine, unable to roll the camera. What would be the point of that? I might as well just go home. So I would take Tylenol Extra Strength with me, and that way, if I felt something, or like maybe a migraine coming on, I would take some of those, and I would just keep on being Survivorman. Lil Kong 2000, how'd the film crew find me? Did they know my exact location? Or was, oh, I think I answered this question in the last one. They knew that I was expected to be on that snowmobile trail with the dog team. This is in reference to the Labrador show. So that's how they knew to look. They just came driving along, riding along that trail on their snowmobiles until they saw signs of me. And I think they had to spot me through the bush, but they did, fortunately. Jay Biebermeyer, did the dogs get flown out as well? Were they caged? You know, oh, right, I do remember the answer to this question. No, if you remember, I let go of the dogs I don't know how many days into it. I let them run and take off, and the owner met up with them later at the camp. No, right then the owner mushed the dogs out, so they didn't have to get flown out because they weren't there anymore. Julio Diaz, one question. How many batteries and cameras did I use to film one episode? It varied. It always varied, but I would say, generally speaking, 9 batteries. I don't know why 9 and not 10. It's always 9. So 9 batteries seemed to always be how many I had. And cameras, if I could, I would never shoot an episode without at least 2, but usually almost always 3, and on occasion 5. Like once GoPros came into it, I'd have those as well. When I know I'm going to be doing a bit of a trek, I have to slim down quite a bit and not carry too many cameras. Other times I have beanbag mounts and multiple cameras. In this case, I'm trying out a new wrist mount. See how that works. And then, of course, I got to check and make sure the battery's still good. So I have to do all of this with batteries and cards. And so, I mean, even right now, right, all I'm doing is sitting and talking to you. And yet, for this one, for the sake of getting a clean edit, for the sake of cameras messing up and all sorts of other things, I have 1, 2, 3 cameras running. You see how that works? Now, I even have some GoPros charging. I was going to put them up too, but then in a situation like this, that's giving the editor too much work. In a situation like Survivorman, I'll take as many cameras as I can get. Jay Hard, Ask any idea where I can buy one of your Camillus fixed blade survival knives. You can't. They are discontinued. Camillus and I parted ways years ago because they wanted to do everything with really cheap stuff from China, and I refused. And they got away with some of it. And so, yeah, don't get me bitching about Camillus again. But you can't. You'll have to find it. I mean, that said, I have, you know, a few boxes left, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them yet, but you might find it in a lawn sale somewhere. I don't know. David's Outdoors 2012. How much sound cleanup and editing did you have to do? A lot. A lot. As much as I constantly talk about, you know, the way to film and the good things you should do and make sure fixing glitches and mistakes. By the same token, when you're out filming in the wilderness, you're at the mercy of the elements, and you absolutely end up with glitchy stuff and mistaken stuff. When I started with GoPros, their sound was atrocious, and I didn't know that at first. So how much fixing up do we do? I'd say a lot. The cameras, these are not the best quality cameras. This is a nice one here that we can work with and make beautiful. It's a high-end full broadcast. These are broadcast cameras, but not my best and my biggest from what I would own. They're the smallest and lightest, and so when you're out in the woods filming with the smallest and lightest cameras that are not the best quality, yeah, your editors have to do some work to clean things up, both sound, color, and the rest of it. Bilbo's Wagons. How much does the loss of a camera affect my ability to film? For example, in the Amazon, when I have many failing because of humidity. And are different cameras set up for specific things, like specific time lapse? The first answer is, well, it can completely affect my ability to film. If I get reduced, like in the Amazon, if I get reduced down to one camera, then I can keep filming. I can continue being Survivorman and finish out my week. But boy, I have to be really careful. I have to really work hard to get all the angles on if I'm building a shelter or what I'm doing. It just becomes a nightmare. That's why putting up 3 cameras is so much more helpful. I can do one thing once. I don't have to do any redos. I hate redos in documentary film work. I hate it. And I pretty much refuse. I tell camera guys when they start to work with me, no redos. If you didn't get it, we don't have it. You didn't get it. We're done, because we're moving on. And so I'm hard on myself that way. So it affects me a lot. And different cameras for different setups, absolutely. Yeah, like I would have a certain camera, because sometimes I have, you know, for sizing and weight and carrying all this stuff, the thing is, audio being vital all the time. I need this. I need a good microphone, right? A good microphone system, right? XLR input. I need all of that for audio. So that can only work with a certain camera. So that becomes this guy here, my main camera. But I can have a second camera here. This one doesn't need all that audio stuff and all that connectivity, so it can be smaller. Okay? So I might also then take this one, plop it over, and get the sunrises and the time lapses and the sunsets with it. So I would do that. And the GoPros, of course, for getting wet or getting really down crazy angles. So short answer is, yeah, different cameras for the different things I wanted to do. Absolutely. Tanner Sloan just wants to know how to buy my survival manual. You can get it on my website, lesstroud.ca, and if you aren't able to get in there, then try on somebody else's computer, because we've checked a million times and it works. So that's this guy here, and definitely can get it on my website. Very proud of this manual, in case I haven't said that before. Hey everyone. Allow me to interrupt myself. I don't really like hawking merchandise and swag, but you guys do ask all the time where you can get certain items. For example, check this out, Hennessy hammock. I put a lot of time and effort into designing this hammock with Hennessy. It's their top hammock. It's an amazing, beautiful, comfortable hammock to enjoy for all of your adventures out there, so just check it out. It's got a full-size tarp, which was a big thing for me. It's got insulation, and I love it. So I've got the Hennessy hammocks. Of course, for years I've been in a phenomenal relationship with Hella of Norway, Hella Knives. And this is our signature knife, of course, the Tamagami. These knives are handmade. In fact, I've been there to this very ancient factory where I don't know how many, it's well over 100 years that they've been operating, and every single handle is handmade. All of the grinding, everything is done by hand. And these knives are absolutely beautiful. I also now have a brand new relationship, and you will see these items, new forging tools that I'm designing with LT Wright Knives out of Ohio. And also, Chef Paul Rogalski of Wild Harvest has the signature Chef Paul Rogalski kitchen knife collection. Those are a big thrill to me, to have these beautiful items that we spent years designing, and I still have them available for you. However, if you want to go more the route of just enjoying the Survivorman legacy, if you will, then of course, go to my website, lesstroud.ca, go to the shop page. Right there, you've got everything. All the swag, all the merch, such as my manual on survival. This is if you want to get into survival. This book is meant to be a way to walk you through step by step, because I deal a lot more with concepts than I do with specifics, because that's really important. Once you understand the concepts of fire by friction, for example, you can do it depending on where you are, because I can't give you the advice on how to do it here in Canada and hope that it's also going to work down in the jungle. Things are different. So I've always been very proud of this book, Survive. So that is my survival manual. Also, if you weren't aware, I've got the book Will to Live. I wrote this book well, it's kind of for a lot of fun. I took my 10 favorite survival stories, such as Chris McCandless Into the Wild or the Robertson family and the life raft, and I basically dissect them with this book. I tear apart the story, I go through everything, and I even give them a little bit of a grade on how I thought they did. So I really enjoyed writing this book. It's a real easy read, it's a fast read, but I think there's a lot of insight there for you into all of these different examples of people who have either survived or perished. Speaking of books, so honored, so thrilled, so proud that Wild Outside, my first children's book, has won the Yellow Cedar Award, Best Nonfiction Children's Book in Canada for ages 7 to 14. I tell stories from Survivorman, lessons learned during those expeditions and adventures, and there are even activities they can do in the out of doors. So there you go. My new book, my children's book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman, has just won the Yellow Cedar Award, and I'm up for another award yet. And in keeping with stuff that's going on right now, we are also up for an award for our Season 1 recipe book from the series Wild Harvest. And if you've never caught the series Wild Harvest, check this out. Woohoo! Beautiful little rainbow. Dinner.
This perhaps is the most incredible kitchen scenario I've ever had.
When you start getting involved in local foraging and bringing the ingredients home and playing with them in the kitchen, can you create a dish where the domestic ingredients don't overshadow the wild ingredients? Hey there! Oh! Go on! Now the job's getting fun.
This dish is a showcase of how great these foraged ingredients come together.
It's the best when it's its own flavor. When you're making something with a wild edible, you're nailing it and not losing the wild flavor.
Sometimes it is about the ingredients.
Tell me that doesn't look awesome. 2 seasons right now, 26 episodes. In the United States, it's on PBS stations. You can also get it on this YouTube channel. In Canada, Cottage Life TV. In Sweden and Norway, on Matt Cannellan. It's on National Geographic. Asia, which includes China and India. So my Wild Harvest series is playing around the world now, and we, with every single season, create a recipe book based on the recipes that we show you in the actual shows themselves. So that's Wild Harvest, and of course, if you want the DVD, you can get that on this website as well, lesstroud.ca. And let's not forget too, that I'm a musician. The CDs themselves are available on the website. The next release will be the re-release of the Mother Earth album on vinyl. But go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music, or on my website. You can go to the shop page, you can pick up all of my CDs. This is the last one. This is my 20th anniversary selection. Check it out. Every film I've ever made, 76 films in all of the Survivorman, Bigfoot, Beyond Survival, music documentaries, one-off films such as the award-winning La Loche about the school shooting up in Canada and a healing canoe trip. This is my 20th anniversary, 76 films. And people that have picked this up have raved about it. And I'm really proud that I can say I've got 20 years of anything, to be honest with you. That's available for you as well on that Les Stroud shop page. Okay, that's me hawking my stuff. Back to the video. Express Yourself XX. Question, what's my favorite multi-tool? How many models have I gone through during Survivorman? Must-have tools and unnecessary tools on a multi-tool. What features would I take if I were to create my own multi-tool? First of all, I did have my own multi-tool. That's one thing that Camillus did right, actually, is the multi-tool. I'm really proud of that little Camillus multi-tool. So working backwards, features robustness, you know, cheap crap little multi-tools, no good. I'd rather a full-size multi-tool or a mid to full-size multi-tool than a small with just a few items. If you're going to have a multi-tool, I think, you know, might as well let it live up to its name and have multi-tools on it. And believe it or not, you know, that little Phillips screwdriver and a flathead screwdriver, those things, they do come in pretty handy.
Oh, say goodbye to a good harmonica. See where I'm getting at here. Okay, so this is going to be my spear point.
I think certain things are unnecessary, like sometimes they put like toothpicks in there. I'm going from memory at this point. They've got multiple knives. You could probably just have one knife and keep it sharp. It's fine. I don't know why they always have two knives. The scissors are great, but they've got to work, man. They've got to be good scissors. Otherwise, they're pointless. My favorite multi-tool, and I would say maybe even over my own, although the Camillus one is good, is the Leatherman Wave. That was after using all of them. I owned every brand, every model for 20 years. I landed on the Leatherman Wave. Okay, Thomas Schendel. Hey Les, I'm a huge fan. I've always wondered what got me interested in survival initially. Maybe the cliche of Jeremiah Johnson. You know, the ruggedness of being out on wilderness adventures, the Cree hunters of Mistassini. That was the first thing that got me back. I was actually leaving the music business, and I saw an ad for a wilderness survival course, a little two-line ad in the back pages of a newspaper at the local college. And I thought, and it said, learn edible wild plants in shelters. I thought, that's me. That's what I want to do. I went and I did it. And the first night I spent in my own shelter with the bugs biting me and the rain coming down, it was a horrible spring night. I was giddy. Sat there with my boots sticking out in the rain, and I was giddy. I thought, I love this. This is the best ever. And I never looked back. The facilitation of it, or what it facilitates, is my connection to nature. That's what it gave me that I was not expecting. Inherently, I knew I wanted to be connected to nature. These skills led me there, and that's what I love about survival, and still to this day. But initially, probably the romanticism and the ruggedness. I think I'll go watch Jeremiah Johnson tonight. He fifth. When you first switched to primarily high-def cameras and video cards, was that easier for you than the old SD ones? Were they bigger at the time or more bulky? No, they were smaller. It was all, the improvement was to my benefit. Camera has continually improved to my benefit as far as filming out in the wilderness, and all of you as well. It's so much easier to film out there now than when I first started. I mean, gosh, in the first Survivorman, I was using a shoulder mount camera in the winter pilot. I had a shoulder mount camera for that shoot. I mean, crazy stuff. But now, nice and small. Here's something you didn't know. On every Survivorman episode that I ever shot, I wore contact lenses. So think about that for a second. I got to get up in the morning, sleeping in some shelter or on some rock. Maybe it's blizzarding and blowing, it's freezing cold. Maybe I'm in the jungle, sleeping in the mud. Maybe I'm in the desert, and it's sandy everywhere. And I have to get up every morning and put in my contact lenses. Yeah, imagine that. If only I'd known about delivercontacts.com, because they would have brought me fresh, clean contacts every morning. Free delivery, the lowest rates, and the top brands. And your optical insurance covers it. Man, I wish I'd known about Deliver Contacts then. Here's a story. I'm about to shoot an episode for Shark Week. I'm going to jump into the ocean. There's a crew down there. They're going to film me come in. All right, splash. I go down in. I look and I notice my contact lens is floating around in my mask. there's 3-foot swells. I have to go back up, hold on to the end of the boat. It's going up and down, push my mask off. There's my lens floating around in the salt water. I have to take my hand, one finger, trying to get it, put it into my eye, with the ocean water splashing me at the same time, get the mask back up, and back down I go to film the show. Delivercontext.com would have been there for me in a heartbeat. They would have swam across the ocean in all likelihood and brought me a fresh lens. So I'm so very honored that Delivercontext.com is sponsoring this very video you're watching right now. Kyle Franklin, was there any accidents back at base camp that Barry Clark had to deal with while I was out filming? Yeah, in fact, there was, I wish I'd interviewed Barry for this. There was a plane crash in the little plane strip in the middle of the Amazon jungle, and this was Barry Clark's first time coming out with me, and he's back at the village in a thatched roof hut, and a plane crashes, and he had to go look after that. I didn't even know that happened. I was way out in the jungle. So yeah, there's been some accidents back at base camp. I know of that one. I don't know if there's others. George Vlad, did I record wild track audio? Does anyone do it for me? Or is it all audio captured with my camera? It's primarily captured with my camera. However, because I have so many different setups and things I have to do, it's not like someone's pressing record and going and action and then I start. It's more like I press record and then I got to do some stuff. And so I never worried about getting wild track audio too much, because whether through doing a time-lapse camera or just the setting sun thing, I always captured it inadvertently. And so, but I will say this in filmmaking, one thing I've never done in all my years of filming, I do not mix my own audio. It goes to Brian Eimer, Images and Sound in Toronto. He has been doing my audio since day one of Survivorman, so over 20 years now. He's been my audio mixing guy in Toronto. He does brilliant work, and that is vital and necessary. Word to the wise of all you producers out there, don't mix your own audio. I don't care how good you think you are. Don't do it. You already know I also stand strong on, if you're the camera person, don't edit your own film. Everybody that's young now is out there going, guy's full of shit. I can do it. No, don't edit your own film. I'll get into that maybe at another time, but I stand behind that. You get yourself a high quality, great creative editor, your films are 100% better. Also, don't do your own sound. Also, before you deliver to the network, watch that final sound over one more time. Brian Eimer is brilliant, but he didn't know what I meant in certain scenes. Like, no, I want the sound of the birds to be loud, Brian. Put them back in. I have to have those conversations. If you don't watch your cut before you send it into a network, then you send it in at your own peril. Later, you're sitting in a bar somewhere, and your show comes on TV, and you're watching like, what the heck? That was supposed to be taken out of there. Well, you didn't watch the very final before you sent it in. So, sorry, I digress into filmmaking. Mr. Renomax, is the Wild Harvest based on edibles in my area only? No. So once again, Wild Harvest, Les Stroud's Wild Harvest, airing. You can see it all on this YouTube channel too, by the way. If you missed season 1, it's right here on the YouTube channel. No, absolutely. It's based all over the world eventually. Right now, North America, and we'll continue to tie in all of North America. But soon, I'm hoping to take it international. So all over the place. Why not? It's more fun that way. Keynes asks, would I do another Survivorman on YouTube? Yes, I would. And if we keep this going, guys, if you spread this around, share it, if we get more subscribers, let's get me over 1 million subscribers, then I will be in a position, the way the algorithm works, to go out and give you some more. And that, yeah, that's my promise to you. We just got to get it. We got to get there. I'm not there. And I don't want to bug you with a Patreon or a Kickstarter. Not yet, anyway. And also, what are the top 3 places that I would have liked to have done Survivorman? The Himalayas. Well, I did do it in the Himalayas, but I had to go deeper into the mountains. Where else? Where would I go? Oh, Queensland, Australia. Didn't do there. Would like to go there. And I think maybe I think Mexico. Wouldn't mind doing some Mexican jungle. Haven't done there. Scott. Nice, simple handle. Says, what are some examples of the best stuff I did that I couldn't use due to bad focus or the episode being too long? Well, that's a good question. Yeah, you know what's interesting is when we deliver to Europe, we have the cuts have to be longer. They don't have as many commercials. as we do in North America. So the cuts have to be longer, and so we had to actually add back in stuff that was edited out for America, and those are called snap-ins. And so when we did the episodes and put them on DVD or on YouTube, we included the snap-ins so that you could see the full show, not the North American or most of the United States chopped down version. So that actually has everything. I got to say, you know what? I mean, I don't know if it was because I had it down to an art and a science, but gosh, I think just about everything, like 98% of what I shoot ends up in the show. If it's good, it ends up in the show. So there's not a matter of there being best stuff that I couldn't use. I really I knew when I had a show and when I didn't. And if it's day 4 and I don't have a show, I know I got a lot of work to do yet. If it's day 4 and I know I got a great show, I can relax a little bit on those last couple of days. So I timed it down to that place where I brought home what you ended up seeing. Jacob Watson, here's an interesting question. What was my plan if Survivorman was not the hit that it was? Have you run into other creatives that spent their lives doing work, but ultimately not making it? How would you feel about your children going into something as 1 in a million as making it in TV? I kind of it's a bit to unpack there. Because the focus is on Survivorman being a hit and on making it. It kind of depends on what you mean, Jacob Watson, by making it. Becoming financially viable, maybe? I mean, for example, Wild Harvest is not making it. You know, in fact, it owes me some money at this point. So it's still a labor of love. It's still a passion project. And it's interestingly enough, I was asked this question by a friend about, you know, how to keep rolling when there's so much competition in this field now. And when I understood that the question was based on business, I actually had to interrupt at some point and say, you know what, honestly, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I've never done anything for the sake of business. So what was my plan? I didn't have any plans. I never have any plans. When Survivorman signed, that was the first time in my life I knew what I was doing for the next 12 months. First time. At the most, at best, my plans lasted 3 months, often 30 days. That's just sort of the way I've lived my life. So, but let's go back in time. Let's pretend it didn't take. I was planning on doing films like Warren Miller did. Just going out, really that was it, just going out and filming my adventures and making DVDs, which would have been VHS tapes at the time, and touring the films, playing concerts while I toured the films, playing concerts while I toured the films, and selling the DVDs. I would have just been, you know, there's a couple, they're really big up on Lake Superior, Joni and Gary McGuffin. Joni and Gary McGuffin are a couple up in north of Lake Superior, and they were doing adventure filmmaking, photography, and books the same time that I was doing it. Like they were starting the same time I was starting. They might have had the jump on me of about a year or so. And they put out some incredible publications, photography. I don't know if they did much film work. That wasn't their discipline at the time anyway. And that's where I was headed. I was just going to do the same thing Joni and Gary were doing. I was going to do canoe guides for places like Wabakimi where there weren't any, you know, canoe tripping guides, route maps. I was going to do books. I was just going to live an adventurous lifestyle, film it, publish about it, photograph it, and put it out there, and just keep doing it. Kind of still what I'm doing. So nothing has been based on being a big hit or making it. And how would I feel about my children? I have encouraged my children. I'll tell you one thing I've told my children, my kids now they're adults. I never once said to them, ever, just get a job. Look, just get a job, Logan. Come on, Raylan, just get a job. I've never, ever said that as a parent. Never would. And I've never said, what are your dreams? Live your dreams. I said, what do you want to do? What is it you'd like to do? All right, let's see about how you can get there. When they were young and immature and they were suggesting silly things, I would just gently straighten them out. Okay, that's not going to be possible because, but what do you really want to do? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? How do you want to get, let's get you there. Let's look at the steps to get you there. So I would never worry about them going after something that's 1 in a million. It's just not about that, my friend Jacob. It's a good question, Jacob, and I value it, believe me. That's why I'm taking so much time to answer it. Have I run into other creatives, spent their lives doing work and ultimately not making it? Yeah. All of us. I mean, look, I'm doing this for you guys, but I still have to get up in the morning. If you want to know what it takes, it's hard work, perseverance. Don't stop. Just keep going. Nudge by nudge, inch by inch, little bit by little bit. Just keep going. That's all I ever did. I was 42 years old. No, let me see. 2001. Yeah, I was 42 years old when I did the first Survivorman pilot. 42. And up until that point, I didn't make it. Ricky Gervais, big fan of Ricky Gervais. Ask him, same thing. He was in his 40s. You know, don't stop. All right, I'll say it. I'm 60. Yep, I know. I only look 29. If I'd cleaned up, I'd even look younger. I'm 60. So, and yet, I'm still trying to make it when it comes to my music. I'm still recording songs, still performing, I'm putting out 3 albums this year. I still want to be a combination of, you know, Neil Young and Jimmy Page. I just haven't stopped, and I won't stop. And I don't think you should either, Jacob, if that's the reason for asking this question. It's not about making it. It's just about doing it. Claire, would I consider some hands-on training, taking groups out, sort of survival for beginners? Not in the large sense of that question, not to the point of, you know, advertising and taking groups and setting it all up that way. I did that for many, many, many years. But I will say I do isolated groups once, very rarely. I did one just a couple of weeks ago for someone who's now become a friend, a bunch of guys who now become friends. But that was the first one in many years, like I think 10. But I do those on occasion. You just got to, you know, make it worth it. Dwayne Ayers. How many times have I gotten sunburn on top of my head? Ask my dermatologist. Way too many times. One of the downsides of being bald is you can really bring on some precancerous blemishes and so on the top of your head. The worst I always got it, though, was diving. Coming up, waiting, floating in the water, bobbing like a cork, waiting for the boat to come over so you can get in it, and forgetting to wear a head cover, and I get burned there like a fire, like a flame. That did it to me. So, yeah, way too many times. Oh, bye. Let's take another film break here. Luke, show them the promo for the film that is still out on my YouTube channel and is out on PBS stations in the United States called Surviving Disasters. If you haven't checked it out yet, guys, check this out right here on this YouTube channel. Go ahead, Luke.
What the heck is going on? Holy!
It felt apocalyptic. No radio, no TV.
It happened almost instantly. No one was prepared for this.
A lot of people just don't think it'll happen to me.
It's basic human nature not to want to think about things that will scare us.
If you wait until you need to be prepared for something, you're already too late.
Anybody want to know what it's like during a hurricane?
Cool, eh? You gotta watch that. And there's so many great tips in it for natural disasters and what to do. Judex, are there any dangerous jobs that I've found have new respect for after all these years doing Survivorman? I don't know. I never had a problem recognizing quickly and respecting when work is hard to do and tough to do and dangerous to do. I think too many people are quite oblivious to that, especially in the filmmaking industry. Oh, just do this or just do that. And then some crazy cowboy wild card does do it in a crazy way, saying, well, see, he did it. And it's like, yeah, that guy's an idiot, and he's going to get himself or somebody else killed. Myself, I have great respect for anything that's dangerous, hence being Survivorman. Hence my shows being calm, cool, and collected, and maybe a little bit slow, is because I'm showing you how to not put yourself in danger. KRG927, it seems you have retained all the rights to your work. Was that easy to do? Did you have to trade off any royalties on the back end to do that? Yes, this has come up a number of times, and I think maybe some of you who, you know, are looking at this going, how come Stroud's able to put his shows on you, because I own everything I've ever done. Not Shark Week. I was just obviously a guest host on that, and some other things like Expedition Everest and stuff I did with the Gurneys and that. I was just a host. But Survivorman, Beyond Survival, Survivorman, Bigfoot, everything since then, Wild Harvest, I own everything I've ever done. The question is, was it easy to do? No, it was brutally hard. You had to be shrewd. I became an expert at television contracts. I have friends who want to do filmmaking, and I always say, bring your contracts to me. I'm basically a contractual lawyer at this stage. I hate that I'm good at being a contractual lawyer. I hate it because I had to get there, but I'm there. And it took many years. In fact, it took me 9 years of a lot of negotiating and inching my way towards a place where I had my contracts and therefore the networks right where I wanted them. Is it easy to do from a philosophical perspective or a personality perspective? I think so, but maybe not. You got to have the cojones to stand in a room and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Or no, I'm not giving that up. But this is business we're talking about here. These are contracts and things. If you have the cojones to say that, you also better be ready to walk out and having the deal turned down. You have to be able to walk out of the room having lost the deal by standing on your principle. And I was always ready to leave. And I always said, no, it's you know, the whole, well, you know, yeah, well, let me put it this way. My guys who work for me say, oh, it's the Stroudiverse. And sometimes they meant that endearingly and sometimes not so endearingly. Welcome to the Stroudiverse. That whole, it's my way or the highway. Yeah, that's the way I'm here. And how, why? Because I'm teaching you how to survive, showing you fire bows and shelters. I'm filming wilderness adventure. I'm going off on expeditions and adventures. Great. But I'm also creating art. It's a creation of mine. I'm an artist. And you're not creating with me. You're just a network executive who wants ownership. And so I stood behind, I always reminded myself, this is my art that I'm making. And so no one's going to own my art. I'm going to own my art. End of story. And that was vital for me. And then on the business side of it, I learned the ways to make that work. I can tell you this. There's 2 ways to get a production to happen financially. There's more, but 2 are the most basic. As a commission or as a co-production. If it's a commission, then the network is giving you all the money necessary and they own it lock, stock, and barrel. If it's a co-production, they're not giving you all the money you need. They're only giving you partial money. You have to get the rest of the money elsewhere. Once you've done that, you make your production. But because nobody gave you all the money, you retain all your rights. You still own the whole thing. Because the idea is you took the risk. They're saying, hey, we'll give you half, but you got to risk it for the other half. So if something costs $100, we're going to give you $50, but we want $100 worth of product in the end. And if you sign that deal, you're saying, I will bring you $100 worth of product, worth of show, worth of whatever. And that's what I did. And I got my arrangements through being a Canadian and having co-productions for 20 years plus. And it's still like that to this day. I own everything I've ever done, and I will, honestly, I'd rather not deliver and not be on TV if, is that true? No, it's not so true. I do like just stepping in and being a guest host, that kind of thing. And I will, honestly, I will say to a lot of new filmmakers, to get in the door, go ahead and take a commission. You know, it's a great way to get in the door, to get known. You know, if you look at someone like Bear Grylls, I mean, he didn't own anything, and so he was told what he did to do, and he happily, you know, was a dancing monkey. And then he got his own control, and he controlled everything after that, and he did what he wanted, which is why, by the way, he left survival. Because he hated survival, so he went right into Running Wild, Bear Grylls, all that stuff. That's not survival. That's making a TV show of fun adventure, because he's a great adventurer, not a survivalist. So he did learn. I'll give him kudos for that. He learned quickly. No, you want to really make it in this game, you got to own your own stuff. You got to run that show, and that's what I've done. Most producers don't. I'm really an outlier when it comes to that. Most producers don't own their work, which is why you don't see stuff that Keanu Reeves or Brad Pitt does on their own channels. They're not allowed to. Or Robert Downey Jr., you don't see him showing Marvel footage on his own posts, his social media posts. He's not allowed to. You know, and, obviously I don't compare myself to those very successful actors and producers, but in my case, it wasn't easy. And did I have to trade off any royalties on the back end to do that? No, it's the opposite. By the way, I'll end it this way. There's no such thing as royalties in television. Okay, what are syndications? No. Syndication is something very different. What you're thinking of is royalties in songwriting. When a song gets played on the radio, you know, Elton John song plays, he pockets 12 cents or something like that. Okay, so those are royalties. When you make a television series or a show, especially in the documentary genre, there's no such thing as back-end royalties. It's different if you make a commercial. I think it might be different in the fiction world, though don't quote me on that one. But in the documentary world, you get paid the money up front, you make the film, you deliver it, they have a license they bought from you for 3 years, that's the money, license they bought with you for 3 years, or 5 or 10, they show it for that time, that's it. They can show it 1,000,000 times, you don't get another penny. That's how filmmaking works. Believe me, I spent my time in divorce court explaining filmmaking 101 to the counter lawyers and even to my own lawyer when they thought, well, you must make lots of royalties, right? No, I don't make a penny. Well, that just can't be. You've got to make... No, I don't make a penny. I got the first influx of money to make the show, and that is the end of it. That's how that works. So, again... that came from Judex. That came from KRG 927. Thanks for the question. As you can tell, I do love the questions that take me into places other than just something about, you know, where's the toughest place I've had to survive sort of thing. So I hope that you've enjoyed this today. Guys, thanks once again. And Director's Commentaries coming up next.